And we are live. Welcome to this week's episode of the Funvee Tailgate presented by ThunderblogSports.com, a part of the Bullpen Cart podcast feed. I, of course, am Jordy Cannell, the G-Man. Joining me, as always, is my man, Matty D. What's up, buddy?
It's a tougher week when the Birds lose.
Hey, they lost week 2 last year.
Yeah, I know, but it was a little different circumstance. They lost. Well, we'll get into it. But anyway, I know. I just, a little spirit dampening, if you will.
Sure.
But still, we're in the swing of things, man. Everything's happening. Fantasy, college, regular football. I mean, it's wild right now out there in football. So it's going to be incredible. This week looks like it's stacking up to be another excellent week of football.
Another great week of football. It's kind of weird too. Like, it's so obvious because the college football season's literally 3/4 the length of the NFL. But just the fact that we're already hitting the quarter mark for some teams for college this weekend. In the NFL, it's like we're still really getting underway. You're not really out of it one way or the other if you're either an actual NFL team or a fantasy team. If you're 0-2, I mean, there's the stat that only so many teams that have started 0-2 made the playoffs, but really the stat's a stat. It has nothing to do with probabilities or anything like that. But I don't know. It's going to be a lot of fun to see this weekend because there are definitely some good matchups in the NFL for sure. And even in college too, we're still in this point where there's still some cupcake games, some tune-ups that are thrown out there. But a lot of interesting lines for a lot of games opening up so far.
No, I would agree. Like I said, there are a couple of good matchups, but you're right. This is the last real tune-up week before pretty much every conference that's not already there is going to be headfirst into like conference play.
Yeah.
And but I got to tell you, I mean, there's always a couple big matchups. It's going to be wild, like last weekend was. And I'm going to just jump right in with, to me, the biggest shocker of last week. That was Wisconsin getting upset at home.
Right. Yeah.
Against BYU. I was blown away by that outcome there. Did not see that one coming at all.
Really bad week for them. I mean, they have BYU, for one, their running back's name is Squally Canada. Nobody's talking about that. What a great name that is.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think Wisconsin Alex Hornibrook, you didn't expect him to be, the savior of the game, but you expected him to be more competent than less than 200 yards throwing and an interception. You would have thought he'd get a little more involved. I mean, even their rushing attack, Jonathan Taylor, he can only do so much going for 117 yards. They had over 200 on the ground, but you still have to expect something more than no touchdowns for your top guy. Granted, you have Tywan Deal with two touchdowns and Alec Ingold with a touchdown of his own, but still, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of places that they fell apart. Their defense didn't look that good on any sort of replay, and there isn't really any saving grace. They didn't really get a ton of – they had some pressure, but I mean, credit to BYU for stepping up when they needed to and kind of taking advantage of a Wisconsin team that held on when they didn't need to, or held on when they needed to, I should say.
No, I'm with you. And by the way, one of the best names in all sports, Tanner Magnum, who's been at BYU what seems like 12 years, multi-year. I think he's a 6th or 7th year there. But I just think this is kind of – so a lot of credit to BYU, but this is kind of Wisconsin's MO for the past few decades. Always have an elite running game, great offensive line, decent. I wouldn't say elite, but really strong defense. They've never really had that big-time passing game to get them over the hump when they need it. And you saw that in this game. They just couldn't get it done when they needed to have a big play, when they needed to have Hornibrook just lead them down the field. As good as Jonathan Taylor is, if you compare, so he was off to a great start.
Yep.
But but the other Heisman hopeful running back, Bryce Love, is not. But yet his quarterback has carried him into a high ranking, and now Wisconsin – this is a huge shot to their playoff hopes because they were definitely one of the 2 Big Ten teams that you think has a real legitimate shot at a playoff. Drops them all the way back.
A really bad week for the Big Ten in general.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I was going to say they dropped them all the way back to 18th. And yeah, this was. I mean, we still expect them to kind of coast anyway through their side of the bracket, if you will. They do play Michigan, which is going to be a big game. Play Iowa, and they play Penn State, but we still expect them to end up in the Big Ten title game. But in terms of a playoff team, this is a loss. I mean, they definitely can't slip up again, or they're definitely not making it.
No, I totally agree. And I think Wisconsin's playoff chances aren't entirely squandered just because you mentioned who they play. It's early. They'll have to play whoever ends up winning the Big Ten East. So either Penn State or Michigan again or Ohio State. So they have some quality wins. Obviously, one of them would be against a team that had a good season to make the Big Ten championship game. And you would assume Penn State, at the very least, holds on to a pretty solid season. Next week will certainly test that when they play Ohio State. But Michigan, I don't really see a ton of fall from them. They really look like they're starting to put it together, at least last week. You can say what you will about SMU, but they're at least starting to look like they're putting something together. But yeah, I mean, the Big Ten, you got to be weary because seeing what Washington can do and having some statement wins, or even Stanford. I mean, they're the little engine that could. They're 7th right now in the overall. And I mean, if they're undefeated, who's not to say if, say, Wisconsin's a 12-1 Big Ten champion and Stanford even is a 12-1 Pac-12 champion, and their only loss is to Washington or another team that ends up having a pretty good season, then you have a pretty legitimate shot at saying, well, here we are again. The Big Ten's left out.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely can see it happening because Stanford goes at Oregon, at Notre Dame. And if they can pull off those 2 wins and come into a huge matchup with Washington in November, I mean, you're talking about a team with one of the best resumes in college football, even though USC slipped up this week. Still, I mean, that's going to be pretty hard to keep them out. Yep. And yeah, I definitely think if you tell me that their only losses to Washington and then Wisconsin lost to BYU, you have to give it to Stanford there, I think.
Yep. Yeah, unless BYU, I mean, they're ranked now. They're 25th in the AP polls. Unless they really go on some tear and end up, in the top 15, really you have to think that, and obviously that Washington continues to be good, but there's a lot of tall orders that would happen there. I mean, even Notre Dame, if Notre Dame's only loss is to Stanford and they end up 11-1, you could have an argument there of why not Stanford, Notre Dame both in. And obviously we're talking about a lot of chaos that might have to happen in the Big 12 or in the SEC or even the ACC if Clemson trips up. But there's a lot of craziness that could happen and can happen and can cause a lot of controversy because so much is still so wide open with so many teams looking like they are pumping on high and just completely looking like they're going to be, 2 bullet trains moving at one another. Alabama, LSU, Clemson, and maybe Boston College when that happens in a couple weeks. Ohio State and the rest of the Big Ten East. Penn State looks like they're a wagon right now. You mentioned Notre Dame, Stanford. Auburn's still looking pretty good, even though they lost to LSU. So when they end up playing Alabama, I mean, it's all going to be a ton of fun. Virginia Tech looks pretty good too.
Yeah, don't sleep on Va Tech. They didn't play this week, so you kind of lose them in the, Va Tech and
West Virginia.
Right? They're going to kind of get back on the hype wagon. No, I would agree. You touched on it. I thought the LSU Auburn game was fantastic. Showed a lot to LSU, who has one of the toughest schedules. So, good for Coach O, but that's going to be a tough slog for them, if you will. Most of the other games were, as you expected, blowouts. Alabama just demolished Ole Miss. Clemson smoked Georgia Southern. Georgia beat up on Middle Tennessee. But there were a couple games that I thought were interesting. One I want to point out, and we talked about this team. They didn't play on Friday night, which is why they lost their upset bid. But how about Iowa State hanging with Oklahoma for most of that game?
Yes.
And making it interesting. 10-point loss. It shows you that Oklahoma is not untouchable in the Big 12. But B, I talked about it, and we mentioned how we just love Iowa State as an upset team. They almost did it. They almost did it. And they'll get another shot. They play TCU. They play Oklahoma State. They play West Virginia. They'll have their chances to pull another upset. But that's a really just locked in program, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, it's one of those where I know they're a bigger basketball school, so maybe that's where they're focusing, their resources. But I mean, their football team is not one to sleep on, and it shows once again that Iowa State definitely has, if they really wanted to be good at football, they could turn themselves into a good football program.
Yeah, absolutely. They're always good for that one upset there.
And now they have the story to play for too. I'm not sure if you saw the unfortunate story out of Ames of the women's golfer who had finished out her playing career and just decided to finish up her degree, and unfortunately she got murdered.
Yeah,
so now they have that story to play for too.
Yeah.
Terrifying. So who knows? I mean, we could see them go on a tear after this.
Yeah, no, that was rough. Also, Vanderbilt, battled with Notre Dame, and Notre Dame clearly looks like they're going to need to come back with some A game offensively. Defense looks stout, but offensively they're struggling, and that's going to be a problem. Because they're about to they had a little bit of an easier game this week. Wake Forest isn't a cupcake, but they're going to be. But then they go Stanford, Va-Tech. Those are going to be back to back. That pretty much might decide their whole season. Stanford, Va-Tech, Florida State, and USC fading helps them a little bit in their run. But man, it's going to be 2 tough weeks. I would be blown away if they get out of those 2 weeks without a loss.
I would not sleep on this Wake Forest Notre Dame game on Saturday at noon. I watched a lot of the Wake Forest BC game while I was trying to figure out how to watch Thursday Night Football last week. Wake Forest hung around this Boston College team that we've been praising since the preseason. I think that you called them as a potential team to run at it, and now it's the popular pick. So shout out to you for being first, you hipster. But Wake Forest was hanging out with them, and their defense looks pretty solid. They were the jet black unis. I don't know if that was a Thursday night deal to try to be color rush, but I don't know, man. If Notre Dame's offense, Brandon Wimbush doesn't show up, they have a pretty solid running back, and Cade Carney is his name. Sam Hartman is Wake Forest's quarterback. He has an over 50% completion percentage. I mean, we'll need to see that defense show up on the road, and if their offense doesn't, this game, I mean, it could be a low-scoring affair. Wake Forest could pull it off late.
Yeah. No, I know. The only hard part is you want to see it as a trap game, but because they almost just went through one against a Vanderbilt team, you think they might show up big time against Wake Forest, try to prove themselves. But no, I would agree. there. Kind of another not shocking, but just because of how bad they were beat. But Boise State, everyone thought might be that team that could make that New Year's Six Bowl, gets hammered by Oklahoma State. 44-21. And
big really week for Mike Gundy.
Close. Yeah, not even close, though. I was shocked by the outcome just because, you know how locked in Boise State normally is as a program. That's going to set them back. It's probably going to knock them out of the opportunity to have a New Year's Six Bowl. Probably leaves UCF maybe as the favorite non-power conference team there to sneak in. I would think it
would be the highest ranked one. So if UCF slips up, they could potentially still get that. I don't think independents count and is towards that non-power 5 automatic bid. So I think if UCF screws up, and don't count out Boise State to try to get back there. But who knows? The mid-major, if you will, that's a crazy season to try to look at.
No, it's a big shock. Like I said, I was just more surprised that they lost, but just they lost by so much. I think the other important game that we didn't touch on was TCU and Ohio State. That was the big game of the weekend. It was tight. It was tight until the second half, and then Dwayne Haskins and this Ohio State team just kind of put the screws to TCU. And I thought TCU shot themselves in the foot a lot. Yep. Terrible shovel pass that was basically was just intercepted for a touchdown. Kind of got a little too conservative. Gary Patterson's units did, and they put a lot of pressure on that defense. And, it's okay for a little bit, but they can't keep coming back out there after a 3-and-out. So I thought the defense for TCU didn't really let them down. I thought it was more offensive related. But Ohio State, the train rolls, man. That they proved that they're definitely in that conversation. They were really good, and they're sitting at 4th in the AP. You'd expect them to open as in the playoff when the BCS comes out, because they are
football playoff CFP.
I said BCS. Wow. Yeah. College football playoff. Georgia jumped Clemson, still received 3 first-place votes. Clemson did, but Georgia's up to number 2, which I think they deserve. They've been really dominant to start the year.
I like that. I like that a lot. Before we look at this weekend, I want to try a new segment or a new little question. I'm going to name off a couple teams that were others receiving votes. They're not ranked yet, and I want to ask which one of these is your biggest threat. So the top 5, I'm going to do this, are Iowa, Boise State, who we just talked about, Duke, Colorado, and Cal.
Yeah.
Who do you think? And then Kentucky is 6, so I'll throw in Kentucky as well.
No, I got you.
Syracuse, shout out to them. Shout out to me for calling them the +3, and I bet them outright. But they got some votes too.
By the way, how about North Texas?
Yes, the Mean Green.
With one of the greatest punt return ever.
Yep.
Yeah.
But of those 6, not necessarily of a playoff threat, because some of them have losses. Obviously, Boise State does. But who is the biggest threat to be the disruptor for this season?
Yeah, I'm actually going to take the first team listed there, and that's Iowa. And here's why. They play Wisconsin this weekend.
Yep.
And we know how well coached of a team they are with Kirk Ferentz, and this is a team that normally ends up ranked by the end of the season. To me, if you're Wisconsin, this is like they're a 3-point favorite. But you were thought after last week, if this was done before this week, they're probably a multi-touchdown favorite. You can't sleep on Iowa. They play Wisconsin this week. Then they go and they play Penn State in a couple weeks in middle of October. They go to Penn State. That could be a game where they beat somebody accidentally. Not accidentally, but they upset a team. If you don't want to play Iowa, and we talked about if the Big Ten wants to make the college football playoff, they have to go undefeated. Something along those lines. Anyway, they're definitely not a team to sleep on. I think they're going to end up being ranked. I think they could beat Wisconsin this week. I'm not saying they're going to, but I think they could. They could do it.
No, it's interesting. I mean, there's a reason why it's a 3-point favorite. They're not doing that out of shock. It's not like the over or underselling after an earnings report for a stock. Though I'm gonna pause on because I wanted to try to get you to say Duke, but we can pause because they play NC Central this week. They have a big game against Virginia Tech. They also play Miami, and they almost close up their regular season, close up their away season. I had to scroll a little more to see they played Wake Forest after they go to Clemson. Kind of crazy that they don't have them play UNC in the last week, but that's, I guess, scheduling. That's not the biggest priority for the ACC football.
Yeah.
But they do play the 3 biggest threats. Miami obviously has kind of had their woes against LSU, so they don't really have a playoff threat. But I mean, they could be a bit of a disruptor. They could be another sort of like that 2013 Duke team. This is the team that led Johnny Manziel by 28 points, and I think it was 21 or 28 points, and Manziel came back to get them. They kind of came out of nowhere. They upset. I think it might have even been Virginia Tech on the road. Well, Virginia Tech was supposed to be having this great season, so who knows? We could see something like that. Cutcliffe, their coach, is a solid guy, solid QB coach, one of Peyton Manning's favorites. So we'll come back to them, I'm sure, throughout this season. But I wouldn't sleep on them. We could see them put up some big numbers against I think they're FCS, NC Central. I wouldn't think they're D2, but we'll see how it all goes. But Matt, you transitioned us pretty well into next week, so I'm sorry I fucked that up.
No, it's all right.
This weekend is going to be fun. We have some pretty good matchups coming in, and even some that aren't even of ranked opponents. One is one of those teams I mentioned, Kentucky hosting Mississippi State in Lexington. That game's on national TV, which normally a good basketball game, but could be a good football game. We have some pretty intriguing Big 12 matchups. And I mean, it's going to be a fun weekend, man.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a great weekend. I don't know if it has the same oomph necessarily as last weekend, at least in terms of like ranked matchups, right?
On paper, though, it's kind of similar because now we're at least getting some conference play.
Well, first of all, you're right. Like we said, there are a few cupcakes left. Right. No, you're correct. I wouldn't sleep, by the way. UCF plays Florida Atlantic on Friday, okay?
Yep.
And Penn State plays Illinois on Friday. Those are 2 games, like I said, Friday night games. They're like Thursday night football. They're a little wacky. You got to pay attention to those. So
especially when it's a Big Ten Friday night game.
Yep, and we also know that Penn State's a 28-point favorite. All right, but it's in Illinois, and Lovie Smith is basically coaching for his job this season. So, and Penn State, they didn't struggle against Pitt, but they struggled against Appalachian State, and they had some issues with Kent State early. They blew them out. Don't get me wrong. Just watch out on a Friday. I think they're going to win, but just be careful. Same with UCF against Florida Atlantic, Lane Kiffin School. Just pay attention because you never know.
Yeah.
So, how about this, though? Finally, and look, I think Georgia's the number 2 team in the nation, but they finally are going to play somebody. I mean, they started out against Austin Peay. Now, they smoked South Carolina, which was a ranked team, but they're not a super team. They play Middle Tennessee State. They're going to get Missouri with Drew Lock, the first-round prospect at the moment, quarterback, and if he wants to show himself, this will be a game to do it. They're only 14-point favorites, Georgia is in this game.
Yes.
So this is one you want to tune into because a lot of people are talking about how Georgia's offense looks really great, but their defense still has some question marks on the back end, and they're going to be tested by a big-time quarterback here. That's an interesting one for me that I'm going to see if I can watch a little bit of in between the wedding, the wedding stuff.
Yeah. We'll obviously be trying to bribe a bartender to keep a TV in the reception hall as we go to our friend Logan's wedding, who still is evading the podcast, if you're listening, Logan. But Drew Lock, getting back to him, I mean, he's going to be the X factor. He's had a great season so far, quietly kind of becoming a bigger quarterback name, has over 1,000 yards already, 11 touchdowns. So we'll see. I mean, like you said, Georgia's defense needs a statement win. This could be that for them.
Yep.
But it could also be where they trip up and is 2 touchdown favorites on the road, which the fact that Missouri's still in the SEC East is wild to me, but I don't know. We could see a lot. Missouri's always, really since in the last 10 years, since they had that awesome year with Chase Daniel, they've had, some years where they have a really good September and can make some noise. I don't know if they upset them, but I think it's going to be pretty close.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's a good test for Georgia. I expect them to roll. I think the offense just has so much firepower for them. They're so balanced. They just do everything well.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. You look at – let's talk about 2 games at the same time. That's the number 1 and number 3 teams in the nation. Alabama getting Texas A&M comes to town, and then Clemson going to Georgia Tech. Mm-hmm. So here's why I bring the 2 games up together, because Clemson and Alabama now have a common opponent, Texas A&M. Now, Texas A&M was playing at home at night with the 12th man, which is one of the greatest, wildest places to play in college football. But they were able to do more damage to a Clemson defense than most thought possible. Georgia Tech is the triple option offense. I'm not saying that Clemson's going to lose, but it's going to be interesting to see how their defense and that defensive line responds, because 2 weeks ago they got beat up by that Texas A&M team. Now, they did it more through the air, but still, I think it's an interesting matchup. Do you see either of those teams, Alabama or Clemson, having any problems this weekend?
So I want to say that Alabama is more likely to have problems because of what Texas A&M did to Clemson. But this is at Bryant-Denny Stadium.
Yeah.
And seeing how Alabama played last week at the Grove, I think Alabama's going to be fine. I do think this Clemson game against a triple option Georgia Tech, again, it's going to be a statement moment from this defensive line that we were talking about preseason, that these guys could be all first rounders, and we need to see what we need to see out of them. So I don't think Clemson's going to lose, and I actually don't really like this 16.5 point line. It's very weird. I'd probably stay away from it if you're trying to bet. If you really want to bet ACC football, you have a lot of other games that you could probably find for your gambling pleasure. It's wacky to me, though. It's supposed to be sunny. It's in Atlanta. I think whichever way Clemson goes with their quarterback scenario, is Kelly Bryant going to play for one?
I thought he was. Why? Did I miss something there?
Well, didn't he get hurt last week?
Oh, yeah, but I think he's going to play.
He's going to play? Okay.
I think he's going to play. Yeah.
All right. So whichever way they decide to go with their quarterbacks, we'll just see how that happens. But you got to come in with a solid game plan, I think, because Georgia Tech could jump on you early.
Mm-hmm.
And the difference between when we talk about Georgia Tech potentially doing something like this to a Clemson, to Virginia Tech, Florida State, whoever the top dog in the ACC has been over the years. The big time that we talk about this and watch out the triple option offense, Georgia Tech's like 3-0. They're ranked like 16th, and it looks like, oh, this is the hot game of the week. So I don't know, but this could be that moment now that we're kind of, they're 1-2, they're 0-1 already in league play. Kind of keep turn your eye away from them, and that's when they come up and get you.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. No, I got you there. I would also tell you another potential upset matchup to watch, because they had the week off last week. Is West Virginia, Kansas State visits West Virginia. Just because West Virginia had the week off, you just want to be careful there if you're West Virginia. Make sure you take care of business against a lesser Kansas State team, well coached but lesser team. Although I will say, to me, the two biggest upset bids of the weekend are found in the Big 12 and the SEC. That would be TCU going to Texas, who just came off a huge win last week.
Yes,
against USC. TCU's coming off of a tough loss. TCU needs a quick bounce back here, and they need to beat a rising Texas team who now has a lot of confidence going into this game.
No, I totally agree. Texas, they looked like the team we thought they were going to be last week against USC. Just rolling over USC when they were down too, which I think is humongous. But we'll have to see what TCU does. I think they get this by at least 10 points, if not 2 touchdowns. It looks like it's supposed to be thunderstormy, so you might have to start seeing the running game get involved. But Darius Anderson's looked pretty sharp for them, so I wouldn't be too concerned if you're a Horned Frogs fan.
Okay. Like I said, the only problem is coming off that emotional and difficult loss. The other upset special I have here is a team that we are not talking about in the SEC, who could be we talked about before, but could be a major challenge. Hasn't really played anybody, but Mississippi State, who's played Stephen F. Austin, Kansas State, and University of Louisiana Lafayette, I believe, ULL, I think. So they're finally going to play. They're going to finally play a team here. They're on their way to play Kentucky.
Yes.
In what should be somewhat of a smash-mouth football game between the two.
It's supposed to be rainy in Lexington. Benny Snell averages over 100 yards a game. Mm-hmm. I love him in this game.
I think this has got potential upset special written all over it. Kentucky, 3-0 start, wants to prove themselves that they're a program to be reckoned with. This is the game to do it. If you want to set yourself up, you got to find a way to beat a very talented and under-talked about Mississippi State team. Because here's why. They beat Mississippi State. They only have 2 of the ranked opponents, Texas A&M and University of Georgia. So it's going to be a war now. It's going to be a war. This is the kind of game, if you want to watch some power football, watch these two teams go at it. I'm excited for that one, and I got upset written all over there.
No, I really like that pick, actually. The one I was going to go for is Indiana hosting Michigan State.
I noticed that one. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, Michigan State, they had last week off, so they've had a lot of time to think about their upset at Arizona State. But Indiana's a hard out in Bloomington. I don't know. I just like this game. I like this a lot of Indiana potentially doing it and getting 4.5 points from them. I don't know. I really like that there. They have Stevie Scott as their running back. This guy has almost 400 yards in 3 games. I don't know. I think it's going to be a big game.
No, I would agree with you there. I think this is going to be I was staring at that one as well, simply because we don't know how Michigan State's going to come out after their tough loss to Arizona State a couple weeks back. So, no, that one definitely sparks my interest. And it's, once again, it's away. It's not a home game for Michigan State, who –
exactly.
If you're Michigan State, too, you're kind of looking and saying, all right, what are we? Because now if they win this one, they kind of got an easy slope. But then we talked about it. At Penn State, Michigan visits the next weekend in late October. They need to get back on track before those games. They're going to have this – but this is not an easy one to do it on, because I'm with you. I think Indiana's got some talent this year. Got some talent this year for sure.
Yeah.
Yep. And then, really good ranked matchup. We're gonna learn a lot about one team in particular here. Stanford visiting Eugene, and number 20 ranked Ducks. Justin Herbert as their quarterback and potential first overall pick. Good. They played nobody, by the way. Oregon. So that's why they're only ranked 20th. They played Bowling Green, Portland State, and San Jose State, and they smoked them all. This is basically, are they legitimate or not right now?
Yep.
Boom. Yeah, it really all comes down to this game for them. I don't like them in this game. I think Stanford is my pick out of the Pac-12.
I agree.
I think they're going to get beat, but you never know because we just don't know a lot about Oregon and what they really are. So we're going to find out a lot here.
No, I totally agree with that. I think I agree. I don't really trust Oregon too much in this game. I think Stanford wins pretty handily, but we'll see. I mean, 56-point over under, I think tells you a lot about what Vegas is thinking about it. They're not sure what to think of the Ducks, and they're not really sure what to think too of Stanford because we haven't seen Bryce Love take off like we thought we were going to.
Love, right, but this will be the game to do it. By the way,
exactly.
Nothing against the Ducks, but they're not necessarily as you don't expect them to be stalwarts, defensive. They're not
exactly
right. Yep. Yeah. There was I have a final game I was going to touch on. Was there anything else that you wanted to touch on?
You do your final game, and I'll do my one of my little last college thing before we go to the NFL.
Gotcha. Well, to me, you have to wonder. Michigan hosts Nebraska.
Yep.
And the only reason I have any concern here, because Nebraska's look bad, is just because Scott Frost is dying for a win. 0-2 to start his Nebraska tenure. Not what the Cornhusker fans were thinking. Michigan has been they haven't figured it out. They've been figuring it out of late. Are you concerned here at all about this game?
Yeah, so it's an interesting one because Nebraska has not looked at all of what they should have been with Scott Frost and how much hype that was surrounding him. I will say Michigan had themselves an interesting week. They won pretty handily against SMU once they really got it going, but they had a bit of a slow start. So I just think they have to watch out for that because 45-20 to a team you were 4-touchdown favorite against, okay. If they have a slow start like they did against Notre Dame and Nebraska gets some confidence rolling, I don't know. I think it'd be a lot closer. I don't have any concern that they might lose it.
Me neither. Okay.
And in fact, I think the most concerning game, if you're a Michigan fan, before Wisconsin, this is a bit of a hot take, might be Maryland. They go to Northwestern last week, and Northwestern hasn't looked good in the last couple of weeks.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah. Go ahead.
But we'll see how that goes. It's definitely an interesting one. The other one, though, and I'm glad we ended with our teams. The other one I wanted to quickly touch on is Lehigh going down here to Philadelphia to play Penn, the second time in 3 years that they've done this. Nice little home yearly tradition we're starting to see out of this, even though it's just the Patriot League and Ivy League football. The Ivy League opens their season against the Patriot League. But, Lehigh had themselves a nice little week, a nice little shout out on bad beats from Scott Van Pelt from scoring a touchdown with 30 seconds left to cover the 30.5-point spread. Not a big deal. But the Mountain Hawks, they look pretty good. And I think what their running backs have been able to do, specifically Don Bragalone, what their quarterbacks have been able to do, their defense is starting to look more and more solid. I think this should be it could be a good game for them to play. 2 years ago, they won down here. Penn had a pretty handily big win a year ago at Goodman Stadium up in Bethlehem. But we'll see. It's actually on ESPN Plus, which I guess between the money between the two schools' alumni bases, I guess they're the ones that are buying ESPN Plus. So we'll see. We'll see how it all goes, Matty D.
Yeah, I'm with you. It should be a great week 4 in college football. Week 3 of the NFL, though.
Yes.
It's coming up.
Coming up fast.
Yeah. Going 0-2 is devastating. Going 0-3 makes it pretty much impossible. We'll talk about a few teams that do not need to go 0-3. But overall, I think you're starting to see, once again, this is where you start to find out who's week 3 is where you start to figure out who's fluky, who's not. Yep. So this ought to be a really interesting week here in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Starting with Thursday night. Why? I mean, I would never have wanted to tune into the Jets and the Browns if you had asked me this in August.
Right.
with the Browns desperate for a win and coming so close, and the Jets with a rookie quarterback, all of a sudden I'm intrigued by this game.
I know. It's incredible. I mean, the Browns, Matt, open as 3-point favorites.
I know.
How insane is that?
I got a buddy who's a Jets fan at work. He is like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
But you know what? I'm not sure who I want here. That's why the NFL's fun. You got what's going on with the Browns, and they've got a new kicker, thankfully. Nothing against the other guy. Hopefully he figures it out and gets back in the NFL. But
yeah.
It ought to be a fun watch. Ought to be a fun watch.
No, it's going to be a ton of fun. And you want to jump right into the cold hard locks? Do you have any fantasy guys?
No, let's do it. Let's jump head first. Let's dive. By the way, fantasy update for you. Yes, if you don't have Giovanni Bernard in one of your leagues, he's now the starter for the Bengals. Get him on your roster. But he's probably already taken. So anyway,
probably.
Yeah.
So the Browns, I mentioned it, open as are 3-point favorites entering Thursday Night Football. I'm going to make a pick. It's definitely not one to bet. I don't bet. Here's just a bit of advice. I've done terrible against the spread in the NFL to start this year. Do not bet Thursday Night Football. I at least have known that anything can happen in this fucking game. We mentioned it before with Friday Night College, Thursday Night Pro. Stay away from. That said, I like the Jets here in this game as 3-point dogs. The running back core has been good, if not inconsistent, because really it's kind of what we thought. And I have both Powell and Crowell, and I've had to handcuff them because week 1 I made the mistake of sitting the wrong one and lost my fantasy match because of it. But because at least one has stepped up where the other hasn't, they've had a lot. They've meshed well to produce something consistent. This is a big game for Sam Darnold. I think that Browns defense is pretty legit. We've seen their secondary be very good against 2 well-established quarterbacks. So we'll see what he does here. I'm going to change my pick. I'm going to take the Browns.
You think they're going to unlock the Bud Light fridges?
Yeah, I think they unlock the Bud Light fridges. I don't think we're seeing Sammy week 1. I think we're seeing Sammy week 2.
Okay. I'm going to take the Jets here.
All right.
I think, I'm just going to take the Jets. I'm sorry. Okay. I'm sorry, Cleveland. Sorry.
No, that's okay. By the way, I forgot to mention
for you.
I forgot to mention you won last week. I do not have the week 1 picks. I think you still have them, so I need to figure out who won week 1. So right now we're either tied or you're ahead.
It was probably me. Yeah, gotcha.
I mean, who's won the most? Who's won the most cold hard locks every year? Nonetheless, 1:00 games on Sunday. We move to, and we start with possibly one of the better ones because we're going to skip the Colts and Eagles for later.
Yeah,
the Saints and the Falcons.
Well, it's a big game for both teams.
Yeah.
The Saints righted the ship a little bit last week, although they still didn't look great. This should be high scoring. This should be, it comes in, I believe it's the second highest over-under at 53, right behind the
49ers and the Chiefs.
Yep. So I expect this to be Monday night game might be high anyway, but I expect it to be one of the highest scoring games in the league. But by the way, I like the Falcons.
Higher than Monday night.
I would like the Falcons defense, but they're dealing with their middle linebacker and their starting safety are both out. And so I definitely see this being a big game for both teams. And they need it. It's a divisional round, and they're both 1-1. Obviously, the Panthers are 1-1 as well, but Tampa Bay's 2-0. There you go. Although we'll get to them. So I like the Falcons at home.
I do as well.
But it's close. And I think at that 3-point line, I'll give the Falcons the line only because it's 3 points. If it was 4 points, I'd say under.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think it's going to be a barn burner. I bet you a fun game to watch. Red Zone, I expect Red Zone to be all over that game.
Lit the fuck up.
Yeah. And then I go right into the next one. This could be the other high-scoring game of the week as the 49ers visit Patrick Mahomes, my fantasy gold at the moment. So Garoppolo, Mahomes. By the way, the NFL's leading rusher, Matt Breida, will be in that game. Fun fact of the day for you there.
Yes.
This is also looks like it's going to be high scoring. What people are forgetting in the Chiefs' awesome offensive start is looks like they're playing in the Big 12 because they've given up 28 and 37 points. So Mahomes is basically trying to force them to these victories. I don't know. I don't think he cools off because I don't think the 49ers have that great of a defense. So I'm taking the Chiefs here, but I'm taking the 49ers with points. I don't,
Are you?
Yes, I am. I just think that Mahomes will make a mistake. He'll throw a pick. This game will be a little closer than you expect, in my opinion.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'm going to take the Chiefs with to cover the 6.5 point spread. I don't know. I think we still need to see. This is we're going to prove what the 49ers actually are week. I do think, Matt Breida looks like he's going to be pretty solid for him. I just think even if Mahomes is half of what he was last week, which still would be a solid day, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Still has Tyreek Hill that can do so many different things for him. I think that's the difference maker. I do think it's going to be incredibly high scoring, although I could see it being I could see the Chiefs defense stepping up a little bit against this 49ers team. Hence why I think it's just such a big week for Jimmy G and really this whole 49ers team to show what they really got going.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree there. Next one, a huge surprise team here in the next one. The Raiders visiting Miami and the 2-0 Dolphins with a Ryan Tannehill who has looked sharp in a very West Coast quick strike, quick pass offense, and an underrated defense. John Gruden's Raiders team, much better showing last week.
Yep.
There's still concerns and issues there. It'd be nice if they had a pass rusher. Shame they don't, if they, not traded away somebody who I won't name yet. 3-point favorites Miami are. Yeah, 3-point favorites. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, so it's an interesting game. It's apparently supposed to rain, so we're going to potentially see a lot of stills, a lot of beast mode, and I still like the Dolphins here. Even if you're turning this into Kenyon Drake versus Kenyon Drake, Kenny Stills having to do it on the ground, Marshawn Lynch. I like them to be more careful with the ball because they've turned this into the West Coast quick movement. And although that black hole defense has been decent enough, you're right. They need a pass rush, but it's going to be close. I really don't think over under set for it on total points is set at 43.5. I don't know if that hits. It's a weird one, but I'm going to take Dolphins here.
Okay.
I do want to see because Gruden, he looked a lot better as a coach last week. So the Raiders are going to win one eventually here, but I don't think it's this week.
Oh, I'm all on board. I'm all on board with Mr. Gruden in this one. I was impressed with the performance last week, even in a loss.
Okay.
I actually am higher on the Dolphins than a lot of people were, but I think the Raiders get one on the road here and get Gruden off the schneid. I just something about watching him last week. I liked what I saw. And I think they get one here. I do. I really do. And so I'm taking the Raiders. Just have a feeling. Have that Gruden grinder feeling in this game. I think they just try to overpower the Dolphins defensively, and that works. Okay. So heavy run game. I think it's tight, but I have the Raiders in this one.
All right. It's fair enough. The next game, though, the line is ridiculous, and I think it's going to be a bloodbath. That is the Buffalo Bills going to Minnesota with the recently tied Minnesota Vikings, who open a 16.5 point favor. It's a college football line for this, Matt. I think the Vikings are going to obliterate the Buffalo Bills.
And that's all you have to say.
Yeah.
I agree. I think
it's a stay away from, but it is a survivor lock of the century.
So they're not, and I'm not going to take them, the Vikings, this week as my lock because
there's another good one. There is another very good one.
Yeah, but still I'm with you. I don't even think it's close. The Vikings look really good, really balanced, both sides of the ball. Yeah, Kirk Cousins looks good enough at the moment. Well, they had some struggles last week, and they should have lost because they got lucky with a terrible roughing the passer call. But
No, I like the Vikings here. I wouldn't take the line. You're right. Yeah, that whatever the hell that was. I wouldn't take the line only because it's the NFL and parity does reign.
Okay.
By the way, the Bills came out in the second half. I know they were already down. The defense played much better in the second half against the Chargers.
Yes.
But on the road too. This is just a tough one. Poor Buffalo. They're gonna get beat up, I think, in this game. Yeah. Next one I jump to is an important game for our Eagles. The Packers visiting the nation's capital.
Yes.
Aaron Rodgers, by the way, came out today and said he thinks he's concerned is that his knee is going to worsen as he keeps playing. Don't think that means it's going to worsen this week, though. I thought the Redskins put up a little bit of a clunker last week against what you thought was the Colts. We both picked the Redskins.
Yeah.
I thought we both picked them. I mean, that was just a bad game.
We both picked them, and that's one I thought was almost a lock. I mean, there were some easy ones to pick, but that I thought was going to be big. And yeah, the Redskins clunker is the perfect word to put it at.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I like this Packers team, even with Rodgers doing his, non-pivot, what they kept talking about, movements. I still like them to win here.
Me too.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that he has so many different tools around him, Rodgers does, and their defense looks decent enough. You just make Alex Smith beat you and don't let their running game, which they're not going to. They still have a solid front seven. The Packers do. Don't let Adrian Peterson and the rest of that the Redskin running game beat you. I mean, make it Alex Smith, and I think.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Yeah. I like the Packers to cover the line.
I do as well.
Yep. Yeah. They look good. I think the defense doesn't get all the credit it deserves. By the way, the Packers defense, that is. They went young, tried to add some new pieces, and for a while they were really closing out on the Vikings. And we forget that Clay Matthews is a stud.
Yes.
Next game is a surprise 2-0 team. I don't want to say surprise 2-0 because they didn't beat they beat the Colts and the Ravens. They didn't beat a really, really great team.
Yes.
By the way, they beat them with identical scores. Both games 34-23. Isn't that weird?
Wow.
Yeah. Visiting the Panthers, who have looked exactly like we thought the Panthers were going to look. Defense. I know they gave a lot of points last week, but somewhat of a strong run defense. They were a little shaky last week. And an offense that's still super revolved around Cam Newton and very short passes.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on this one? I'm getting a tough read here in this case.
It's very weird because obviously we saw the Bengals in week 1 against the Colts look very sharp on the road. It's different than going down to Carolina to play, but we haven't really seen like you said, we haven't seen the greatest coming out party from the Panthers to start so far. 44 is the over-under for total points in this game, which is shocking given how many points both teams have scored, or really the Bengals have scored. And they're coming off of rest, having played on Thursday night last week. Yeah, Carolina's a 3-point favorite at home. I'm starting to sell off on the Carolina receiving core. I'm going to go with the Bengals.
Me too. I love it. I'm going with you as well. I think the Bengals are a more talented team than we gave them credit for. They have their warts. I would also tell you this too. Well, by the way, Christian McCaffrey is currently on pace to catch 180 passes this year, which would break the all-time record. He probably won't do that. But that being said, he does have the opportunity to break the running back record of 102 catches in a season. All that being said, though, I still think the Bengals have a little bit of juice. Maybe I'm just not a believer in Cam. I just, if you're a defense, you just try to take away the short passes. He doesn't have the ability to really read you that well. They get him on that all the time.
Yes.
So, I have the Bengals here as well. Yeah. And I'm going to roll to the next one here. The Jaguars coming off of a monumental win last week against a Patriots team. They shut down Tom Brady for the most part. And they did enough. Blake Bortles did enough on offense without their running back, Fournette. Their receiving corps appeared. They showed up. We'll see if that's for real or not. They got the divisional opponent Titans in town.
Yes.
By the way,
I do not think this game is going to be
Okay, he leans very close. I never can get a
Barely.
vibe because but the problem with divisional games, other than if you play in the AFC East because the Patriots always win, but divisional games are just tough. I think it's closer than you give it credit for, but I do think the Jaguars win this. They, at the moment, to me, and them and the Rams appear like the best teams in football at the moment. But I do have the Jaguars winning. I think it's a little closer because I just simply put, I think divisional opponents tend to play closer games. But
so this game isn't even on sports books. It's completely off.
Right.
And I'm going to go with the Jacksonville Jaguars. So I guess it technically doesn't count. We'll just do it as a pick 'em. But
well, I haven't. Yeah, we'll do them as a pick 'em. I don't have anything on there. So, I'll do them as a pick 'em then. Yeah, I'm with you there.
I just looked on one of the sports books there, and that game is not on there. So not good. But a couple more 1 o'clock games. We'll roll through them. Broncos coming east to play the Ravens.
Yeah.
Broncos looked kind of good last week.
Oh, Case Keenum he's a winner. I mean, that's the one that you can't knock him on. I don't know if he has all the skills, but he does find a way to win. Surprising Phillip Lindsay. And they got some decent veteran receivers, and the defense still has Von Miller, still has Chris Harris. They're still a good defense. I'm not shocked that they're 2-0, but they had the opportunity really to lose both of the last 2 games.
Yep.
At least in my opinion. And I think here the Ravens are a little upset, a little bit of time off after that shocking
bad loss. Really bad game from Joe Flacco.
Yeah. But I think they're also going to get back to the run game and really pound Alex Collins. I like them at home. I actually like them to even cover. I think they come out and they beat up on the Broncos here a little bit and kind of reestablish themselves as the potential class of that whole division. Although if my pick of the Bengals winning, our pick of the Bengals winning, that's going to be a little different. But anyway, I like them here.
No, I do too. I like them to cover. 5.5 points is the spread. I think big bounce back week from Flacco. I like the Alex Collins call. Broncos defense, I just think, are they going to wake up for this East Coast game?
Yeah.
So there's that question there. They have not had an away game even, so we'll just have to see.
What happens outside of Mile High? Yep, go ahead.
Exactly. Let's keep rolling, though. Giants going down to Houston to play the Texans. Both teams 0-2, but the Texans opening up as a 6-point favorite. I think this is a big week for Deshaun Watson and probably bigger than the Giants, who we thought were going to be a little better than they have been showing.
Yeah. So a couple things. First and foremost, the Texans played at the Patriots and a divisional opponent at the Titans.
Mm-hmm.
Watson woke up a little bit. The first game I had them penned in as a loss there. The second game was close. This is my cold hard lock of the week.
Yeah.
Yep, that really is. Because first of all, we talked about Watson. I think they're going to just figure out a way against that undermanned Giants defense. But the defensive side of the ball for the Texans, Jadeveon Clowney, J.J. Watt, and Whitney Merciless have not had a big game at all. And this is my expectation in this game. And
the Giants' offensive line is terrible.
John, boom. I think J.J. Watt, shows up. This is my cold hard lock because I love that line. I have him covering as well. I love him in this game.
I do as well. I have them covering. I think it's like a 10-point win for them.
Yeah, I think this sends the Giants into a tailspin, which, by the way, I actually don't know if I love because as an Eagles fan, that means the Giants will end up with a high draft pick and they'll take a Drew Lock or a Justin Herbert, and they'll basically get their quarterback in after getting Saquon. But I digress from there. I don't want to go too deep into that discussion. That's a long way away. But I like the Texans here a lot. I'm glad you're on board with me there.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you want to do Eagles or do you want to go into the 4 o'clock games?
Let's go to let's change it up. We'll go Eagles first this week because we did Eagles last. Yeah. 6.5-point favorites at home against the Colts. But really, there's only one storyline to follow here. And
Carson Wentz is back, folks.
The return. I mean, I couldn't be higher on his return. And by the way, what a great team to do it against. The Colts surprised me last week with their defensive performance, but this is one of the weaker. We think it's going to be one of the weaker defenses in all of football. I love him to come out. I think he's going to connect 3 touchdown passes. Ertz is going to get a bunch of catches as he already has this season. I'm fired up. This game is going to be electric. And I think, by the way,
week for Corey Clement. I think he has a humongous week on the ground.
I agree as well. I'm not even so sure Ajayi's going to play, and if he's going to play, how effective he's going to be with his knee injury. Exactly. I'm with you there too. I'm very high on Corey. I thought he was our better running back last week over Smallwood after Ajayi's injury, his ability to catch the ball. I think, I know there's a lot of issues with the wide receiving core. I think one, we'll let that handle itself. But two, the defense is going to be – they're upset about last week. They're ready.
Oh, yeah. Jalen Mills is pissed off.
Yep. Poor Andrew Luck. But, I'm with you. I think they roll in, they cover that line, and they reestablish themselves as a favorite in the NFL.
Yes, indeedy. Love the pick. 4 o'clock games. Let's keep it rolling.
Is this the game of the week? This 4 o'clock game?
Is.
I know we talked
absolutely about is.
Because I know we talked about Saints-Falcons. And we're going to talk about the Monday night game here, but this is a fascinating one. And part of the reason why the Rams have been getting a ton of love, and as they should, but it looks like, honestly, their schedule at the moment looks like Alabama's schedule. They played 2 cupcakes, quote unquote. Played the Raiders, and then they played the Cardinals, and they smoked both teams. Now they're going to play an actual contender, we think, in the San Diego Chargers. Well, I did it the second week in a row I did that. Los Angeles Chargers, basically a home game for both teams, if you will.
It's a USC home game.
Right. We're going to find out a lot here about both teams, and I think this is one of the biggest games of the weekend.
Yes. I like Todd Gurley here. I don't really like Jared Goff here.
Okay.
And I like Phillip Rivers to do something decent. I mean, he knows how to utilize his receivers.
Mm-hmm.
I like the Rams here, but I'm going to take the Chargers with the points, but the Rams win is what I'm going to go at.
Okay. I like the upset. I like the Chargers to beat the Rams. I think the Rams
Chargers
come
outright?
in. Yeah, the Rams come in with a lot of talk here, but the Chargers offensively have as much firepower as anybody in the league, without a doubt. And with the emergence of Austin Eckler as another change of pace back to Melvin Gordon, who doesn't get enough credit, I just think there's the talk about the Rams. This is how amazing they are, and this is one of those trap games for me. Their first real test. And I picked the Chargers to win the AFC West, and I'm sticking with them here to beat the Rams in that primetime game. Not primetime game, but kind of showcase 4 o'clock game, if you will. I just got a feeling that Phillip Rivers is tired of hearing about Jared Goff and how great he is. Man wants a ring. He's going after it in this one.
You see that Phillip Rivers said today or the other day on the Dan Patrick show that he's not done having kids yet?
Really? Jeez.
Yeah. He has like 8 kids.
Yeah. By the way, that's wild. I do think Joey Bosa needs to get back for them.
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure.
Big time. And he doesn't look like he might not even play this week. If he plays this week, they're even more locked into me. But anyway, I got a feeling about the Chargers, and I keep feeling like they're going to get over the hump. And to me, this might be when they do it.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Roll into a game that I think the line is right, because really to get above a touchdown or even to a touchdown is tough in the NFL. But I think the Bears -6 going to the Cardinals. It's the other game that I referred to as a potential lock because just of how bad the Cardinals have looked. I'm gonna take the Vikings as mine, although I really like your Texans pick. I like the Bears to win this game, and I'm gonna take them -6.
Okay.
But we have to see what Mitch Trubisky does here, because he didn't look the best against the Seahawks on Monday night. But that defense looks incredible. And I like the running game a lot. So I do like this. I do like this Bears team to cover here.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from, because and when a Tampa team's on the road, I never like to make them my lock, unless they were playing the Browns at the end of last year. But my only concern with this game for the Bears is coming off a big win Monday night. Arizona's a professional team, and they got thlumped last week. And I might have made that word up, but they got thlumped. I can't see Larry Fitzgerald, Chandler Jones, Patrick Patterson not coming out with a little extra fire at home to try to say, hey, we got to do something, because we can't be beaten this bad. I like the Bears to win here. I do. You're correct. I think their defense, it might have been the best. They're running for the best front front seven in all football, particularly as Roquan Smith, who's everyone's not remembering was their first-round draft pick. The excellent Georgia Bulldog linebacker kind of gets into the flow with Khalil Mack. I know they look way better on paper. I just think the Cardinals have a lot of pride. And so I'm going to say the Cardinals at least keep it close. I have them losing but covering the 6. I could see this being like a 3 or 4 point win for the Bears.
All right.
But by the way, I will also want to point something out. Allen Robinson has shown up after the ACL injury, which surprised me. I've been very surprised with his performance.
He needs to catch a touchdown.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Yeah.
But you're taking Cardinals +6 here?
Taking Cardinals to cover but lose.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right.
Yep. They are in the running. They are in the running with the Giants to me, in my opinion, for worst team in football. I think those teams and the Bills too, but at least in the NFC, I think those 3 teams are clearly the bottom feeders at this point. Although how can the Giants have Saquon Barkley, Odell Beckham, and I'm like, well, great, yeah, but they have no offensive line, no quarterback, so that's
nothing else.
Right? Come on, guys. If you have Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Rodgers could probably win in New York, but that's about it. So Carson could win anywhere. Sorry, I digress. I love this next game, by the way, mostly because I can't wait. I can't wait to see them get whooped on. The
Cowboys going to Seattle
in a very tough venue. The other 12th man, we talked about Texas A&M, but Seattle opens as a 1.5 point favorite, probably because, and to their credit, the Cowboys' defense has been really good.
Yes, they were very good against the Giants.
And
it's not saying a ton, but
I don't see them as I don't think the Cowboys' defense is overrated. I think they've got some real players there, which is definitely a concern. What are your thoughts on this one? It's a tough line, 1.5.
Yeah, I'm not sure I like this for the Cowboys. I like Seattle to cover this. I mean, we haven't seen them at home yet this year. This is their first home game. Their defense actually looked better than I thought it would against the Bears.
I would agree with that. Mm-hmm.
But I think, Russell Wilson's still having a pretty good year. Will Dissly looks like he's for real, even though he only has 6 catches. But, 6 catches for 147 yards. Pretty good. Zeke, a little underwhelming. And I think, maybe he has a big game, and that's the Cowboys' chance here to pull off the win. But I really like Seattle to take this one. Maybe even if it's only 3 or 4 points, I'd like them to cover this spread.
Yeah, so the main reason why I think this game's going to be way under that 41.5. I think it's going to be very low scoring. Because the Seahawks almost won a game without their all-pro. I actually think, and nothing against Luke Kuechly, who I absolutely love and adore, but I think Bobby Wagner is the best middle linebacker in all of football, and he will be back. Michael Kendricks is still there. We won't even get into that, but he's going to be playing. Mm-hmm. And you've got KJ Wright, who might play, and we still have Earl Thomas. So defensively, the Seahawks have lost a lot of big names, but they still got a lot of talent. So a fresh Bobby Wagner is a problem for Ezekiel Elliott.
Yes.
That's why I like the Seahawks in this game. I'm going to take them to cover, obviously. 1.5 is a tough number to pick the under, but Cowboys cover. I think it's a close game, but I think it's low scoring, and I like the Seahawks to win. I think both quarterbacks, both offenses are going to be very frustrated leaving this game. That's for sure. Yeah.
We go to Sunday Night Football. We got the Patriots as 7.5 point road favorites facing their former defensive coordinator. And we didn't even mention this with the Eagles. 2 weeks where former coordinators facing their head coaches.
That's right.
Frank Reich coming to Philadelphia.
Correct.
But Matt Patricia,
who should get a warm welcome, by the way.
Oh, I'm sure he will.
Warm welcome. Go on.
I'm sure he will. Matt Patricia, who looked better last week, talking about rookie coaches, but a Lions team that could have pulled out a bigger win. They did get the win in terms of against the spread. How you doing? But yeah, I don't know. I mean, we saw the Patriots not playing well in the warm weather. There's the stat Tom Brady is like 1-9 when it's above like 75 degrees or something like that.
Amazing.
I don't know. I really like the Patriots here to play some pissed off Belichick football and come out incredibly hot against Detroit.
I think that the reason we see the line being 7 is because Matt Patricia's been game planning in practice. He knows all of the Patriots offensive players, minus Josh Gordon. who by the way, I don't think gets as many snaps as people think he does.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be an immediate impact guy.
Yeah, no, I don't think so either. But
it's going to be more like when Ocho Cinco came to the Patriots.
Yeah, I like the Patriots. I like the Patriots though too. I think this is absolutely 100%.
Covering?
I'm in on this one. Covering and winning this game by, I think, handily. I think they're, like you said,
they're like a 2-touchdown favorite. I think 52.5 is the line for this, which, I mean, I think it's possible you go over with that because I think Matthew Stafford could still put up some numbers. He has over 600 yards already, but I don't know. I mean, because really the other part of it too, Matt, is the Patriots could basically just play like a dime defense and be fine because the Lions don't really have a running game.
Yeah, Matthew Stafford actually really hasn't been that great as well.
That's true. He's thrown a lot of picks. I forgot about that.
Yeah, he's about 60% completion percentage with only 4 touchdowns, a lot of picks. So, no, I'm with you there. Although the Lions have a better offensive weapons and pace, at least in terms of wide receiver than many people give them credit for. But I think the Patriots are right. They play pissed off football. I like that line there. Which leads us right into, by the way, this was almost my cold hard lock, actually.
Yeah.
Of the week. I think the Steelers are going to win against the Bucs.
Okay.
First of all, nothing against the Bucs. All the respect in the world. They came out, great game plan against the Birds, beat us, figured out our weaknesses, exposed them to an extent, albeit not our best player and not our best pass catching, or not our best wide receiver on the field. But I'll digress from there. The Steelers, to me, this has been a consistent theme with them, the turmoil we're seeing. No Le'Veon Bell. Antonio Brown's upset. I just have a hunch that they come out and Big Ben – the Bucs might keep it close, by the way. But by the way, the Steelers are a favorite. They're a 1-point favorite. 0-1-1 against the 2-0 surprise Bucs. I just think that shows you that people still don't trust the Bucs, which I know. And the Steelers, by the way, last week they scored plenty. They just couldn't stop them. I like them a lot in this game, and I almost picked them as my cold hard lock, as kind of that gutsy cold hard lock pick if you're in the survivor pool. Just no way they're going to go 0-2-1, and I just don't. Fitzmagic's running out at some point.
Yeah, it's either one of those that we're seeing the Fitzmagic going absolutely bonkers and pulling off the win here, or we see the Steelers play pissed off football, which I think they can. I don't know if I believe or if I really believe the Antonio Brown stuff, but I think he comes out, plays really well for them. James Conner has another big week. I think they open this up. I think they open that defense up because you could say that the front seven for Tampa Bay could really hold James Conner to a lower game. But I don't know, man. I just think a lot of what the Steelers can offer in terms of their receiving core, even outside of Brown with Jesse James, with Juju Smith-Schuster, I just think they have too much power on the receiving end of the football to let Tampa Bay really let their game plan flourish. Because think about it with the Eagles when they lost to the Bucs. They lost a number of receivers pretty quickly, and they didn't have some to begin with. The Steelers have that and then some with Jesse James, who isn't Zach Ertz, but you have the best wide receiver in football and a guy who's emerging as one of the better wide receivers in football. It doesn't let Tampa Bay then just stack the box like they started to try to and really put that pressure on Big Ben or wherever, because they play that quick pass game and they play it really well, and that's what they've been doing for so long. So we'll see here. I mean, 53.5 is the over-under, and I think that's a pretty solid number because the Steelers defense is either they're gonna take advantage of a lackluster performance from Fitzmagic, or we could see just a plain old shootout, which I'm fine with wrapping up week 3 that way, but I like Steelers to win though.
No, I like it too. I mean, and that should be, by the way, if you had told me at the beginning of the season that the Steelers Bucs Monday night game would be a good game, I would have told you you're crazy. And now it's a huge game. So yeah, I'm with you there. I'm with you there all the way. What a great week coming up.
A great weekend of football. We obviously are going to be at a wedding together Saturday night.
We'll find a way to get some stuff on. Don't worry.
Oh yeah. We'll get some stuff on. Then we'll be tailgating together. You're, I think, going to the Eagles game, and then I'll be watching it somewhere. But we'll be at the tailgate, so come find us if you can. But Matt, I'm pretty excited. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'll send out my degenerate pick Saturday morning for college football. I probably won't for the pros because I'm not good at it. So you should just, maybe I will so you can fade me. So keep an eye out for that at Jordo9, at ThunderBLG, Thunderbug Sports on Instagram and Facebook. Matt, you got anything else?
That's really all I got. I need some big weekend. I need some big I need a big fantasy weekend in a couple leagues here. Not in our league, G. I'm on fire in our league, but I need some big fantasy weekends here, so I'm pulling for that.
Yeah, I've had a really shitty start to fantasy, so yeah, hopefully I can get a rebound. But
there you go.
Yeah, it's not always everyone's year, but we'll see how it goes. Thank you, Matt, for hopping on.
No problem.
We'll see you guys next week for week 5 for college and week 4 for the NFL. Make sure you subscribe the Bullpen Card on iTunes so you don't miss our baseball coverage, our football coverage. Greg and I were talking about getting hockey started, so Matt, we'll talk about that offline. NBA, all that good stuff. But for my man, Matty D, I am the G-Man. We will talk to you. Have a great weekend, everybody.